Welcome to the Plant Spirit Podcast on connecting with plant consciousness and the healing wisdom of nature. I'm your host, Sarah Artemisia, and I am absolutely delighted to welcome our next guest to the show today. Roxana Marroquin is a spiritual herbalist, also an artist, art therapist, organizer, gardener, and founder of Agua de Jade Apothecary. Roxana is also a perpetual student of the self, of plants, and all her relations, and she's in a lifelong journey of remembrance and reconnection. So Roxana, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me here. It's an honor, a pleasure, and I'm very excited to share and explore what all this means to me.
It's so great. I just feel so strongly, even tuning into your work before this interview and then in speaking to you, that you have such this connection of sweetness with the plants. It is just so in the heart. It's like just radiating out of you all the time. It's absolutely amazing. And I know that so much of your work is really connected to the ancestors, to the ancestral lineage. And as someone who is so connected to this journey of remembrance and reconnection, I'm curious, where are your ancestors from? And why is it so important to be connected to the ancestral medicines at this time?
Mm-hmm. Yes, to everything. So my ancestors are from El Salvador, specifically a town called Chalchuapa, which it is a translation of, I don't know what word that means the water of jade stones. So that's where the title Agua de Jade or Agua de Jade comes from. I feel like I was specifically born in this place for a reason, and my ancestors made it so. So yes, my ancestors are from a lineage of Mayan people, Olmeca people, Lenca people, as well as Spaniards and Africa. That's where all my ancestors come from. Our ancestors.
It's so cute. It's so cute. I'm having a real tear.
Oh, he has a tear. It's so cute. That's a shame. That's a shame. And it is so important for me to reconnect to my ancestors and to hear their teachings and what they have in store for me, because I feel that they have placed me on this path for a reason, and that reason is for me to heal what they couldn't heal, to heal back as well as to heal forward, right? All the things that we experience through colonization, through industrialization, imperialism. There's still a lot of grief, a lot of pain that our lineage carries from that. And through the plant medicine and through connection with them, I am able to ease that a little bit so that my son and our generations moving forward, we don't have to carry that so heavily anymore.
What does it mean to you to really honor your ancestors in the plant and working with plant medicine?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and working with plant medicine, I'm able to work and live the way that they did, heal and treat ailments, physical and spiritual, the way that they did, as opposed to the way that we're taught that we should be treating ourselves now through Western medicine. But I'm able to reconnect and listen to those messages that they have so that I could implement them in the here and now and share that with other people. And that way they could also remember or begin to reconnect and think, okay, well, how did my ancestors treat fever, a headache, a stomach ache, right? We all have ancestors who worked with plant medicine. So all we need to do is remember that and carry that tradition before it gets lost.
So important. Yeah, I feel that particularly as we are fully in this time of transition on the planet, it's so important to be connected in that grounded way to the plants and their medicines on all levels. And I know that that is such a big part of your work with Agua de Jade Apothecary, of really helping people connect in directly with their relationship with the plants. And so I'm curious, what tips or practices would you recommend for folks who are really just wanting to dive in and connect with the plants directly?
Mm-hmm. Let me see. I'm specifically thinking of the practice of touching, holding them, and feeling them physically with our hands and with all of our senses, getting to know them as we get to know a person, right? When we meet somebody that we want to be in relationship with, we want to know everything about them. We want to know, what are your likes, what ticks you off, what do you feel like, what does your hair feel like, what are like the rough parts of you. So one practice that I like recommend to everyone is to like hold them in your fingertips. We literally have like millions of like nerve endings on our fingers. They're so sensitive. That's like how we I feel like through our fingers we begin to like feel their essence and like connect with that. So that's one tip and practice. Even getting in touch with the earth, touching soil and holding soil in your hands feels so important to me right now, as we're in this time, like you said, of like shifting and like learning and becoming. How about we touch the earth, hold soil, and listen to what that has to tell us? You know, there are messages and holding it, not just in words. The words might come, we may get a feeling, right? Like we may hold soil and we might get a feeling of like warmth and like home, or we might get a feeling of like, oh, germs and like that this is dirty. But then I ask people to sit with that, and what does that mean to you? Like, is why are you so afraid of holding earth, right? What is it about you that you feel might not be as clean? And yeah, just to hold those feelings, hold what comes to you. And if there are any words or emotions that come up through touching, through holding, I feel like that's one practice that we can use to like connect to plants and this earth and the spirit world.
Yeah, I love that. And specifically that you just brought up this aspect of how the plants are communicating in so many ways. And if we, what I feel is like, if we open up our senses with what I call spherical listening, it's like if we really open up all the senses as we're engaging with the plants, we can hear these messages from the plants coming to us through all the senses, which is so cool. It's like not just verbal, it's not just audio, it's really cool. And and I know that so much of your journey really has been, you've been on this lifelong journey of remembrance and reconnection. And I'm curious if you would be open to sharing a little bit about that. And then also, who are some specific plant allies that have really been with you on this journey? Maybe some allies that were with you at the beginning of the journey that really like helped kick that off. And then also, of course, with everything going on this past year, who are some of the main plant allies that you felt really connected to this past year, either for yourself and or for the collective that you're really feeling coming through right now?
Yes, thank you for asking and honoring that journey that I have been on since I was born, since I came into this world. I was born in Chalchuapa in El Salvador, a place of, bounty and beauty and nature and plants everywhere. So I was born into this like life of being connected to the herbs and the plants and everything that we had at home was related to plants. And then at the age of 8, my family and I migrated from that. And we came to the United States, to New Jersey, a very urban, industrial place where I feel that I lost that connection that I was born into. And then growing up here, there was no like drinking teas to treat a stomach ache. It was more like go to the pharmacy, the bodega. So my journey of coming back and being reconnected to the plants, to the spirit of the plants and the herbs, really began in my early 20s in college as I began to study art and specifically photography. I became obsessed with going into the dark room and photographing. And it began with photographing myself, my body, in connection to the spaces that I inhabited. So like, my apartment, my city. But then I began to go into nature and I bring my big, like heavy, at the time I was using the 4x5 camera, which is like, you go under and like use the shutter. So I was bringing this big box and tripod and lugging it out into the woods. And that's really when I began to like connect with nature and find myself, my place, and photograph myself in there, like specifically my body and like my essence. And looking back, I realized that I was like literally creating rituals with nature and like picking plants that at the time were speaking to me. Like one example is violet, which at the time I had no idea what violet was, but when I found the leaves that were heart-shaped, I was like, oh wow, this is like speaking to me. This is like, and I have like a whole series of work with violet leaves, which I didn't realize what the healing aspects of it were until now, or later on when I began to study herbalism. So that's where my healing of reconnecting to plants and to nature really began. And then like it really established itself when at the time when I was pregnant and I wanted to have this whole like holistic natural birth and like, you know, give my son the best entrance into this world possible, which at the time I didn't know what that meant. But I was guided to a specific place in Brooklyn called Sacred Vibes Apothecary, where my teacher Karen M. Rose was the first one to like point out the different herbs that would like help me with different aspects of birth and of like nourishing my body to prepare myself. And then from there I realized she has an apprenticeship program, and I was like, yeah, I need to be a part of this. It speaks to me, it's calling me. And that's where my journey of like really working with the plants, learning to sit with them, learning to listen to them and work with them, and like, yeah, and they became a part of everything in my life now. It was actually in my apprenticeship that I began to walk with a very specific plant, which at the time, our teacher was like, okay, just meditate and see what plant comes to you. And it was lemon balm. Lemon balm was the first plant that I like chose to walk with, not knowing why. Just, you know, I knew a little bit about it. I knew it was for like nerves and digestion, but that's as far as my knowledge. But then through journaling, through making art with it, through like drinking it and sitting with it and making lunar teas, that's when like it began to speak to me. And it was in one meditation. I remember this was like, I was out in a farm, sulfire farm, and we were doing a meditation. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna hold lemon balm. That's the plant that I'm working with. I held it in my hands, and the message that came through me was, I was always there. So it was in this very particular meditation that I heard lemon balm clearly say it. I was always there. And that's when the memories came back of like, yes, I've had this tea before. I know this flavor, I know this scent, and I know this plant because it's a plant that I was drinking when I was a child in El Salvador. So it's no surprise that I chose that as the first plant to connect with and to really like hear speak. So yeah, that's a plant that has carried me through so much. I mean, it's joyful, it's heart lifting, it calms the nerves, right, and digestion too. Which at the time I was experiencing a lot of digestion stuff when I first started working with plants, and through study, through meditation, I realized that it was all connected to that disconnect that I had as a child that was still like mending itself. So it was manifesting as like digestive issues for me. And it was lemon balm who was such an ally who would like soothe me. And I feel that that's its job right now for us. It's soothing us as we're like healing those parts that are broken, but that need to come into wholeness right now. Lemon balm is holding us with love, is holding us with affection, with warmth, with joy. And that's the plant that I feel the collective really could benefit from working with right now. As it has helped me, I know it could help everyone and Earth.
Love that. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
So wonderful. And how would you say that plant spirits really support you in your life's work?
Plant spirits support everything in my life work at the moment. I mean, spiritually, just sitting with them and connecting with them and knowing that they are there, that they are allies holding me, that there's always going to be a plant there no matter what I'm experiencing. All I have to do is listen, and the plant that I need to work with will come to me. So I feel I feel held by them and supported by them in a way that no matter what happens, plants got my back. They're there. And then physically, I mean, this past year, I thank the plant world for holding me and supporting me, my immune system. I've specifically been working with plants that support me physically in my health, so that I can be of service out in my community and with my family members, without the fear of becoming ill, because I know I have trust that the plants have supported my health right now. Yeah, and they support me, of course, emotionally. There's a plant. Yeah, like I said, there's a plant for everything. So if I'm sad, I know which plant to call on, right? Lemon balm, rose. If I'm feeling tired, what plants are going to give me that energy to continue doing the work that I need to do at the moment.
Love that. Yeah. And so tell us, how can people find out more about you and your work?
People can find my work on my website, Agua de Jade or aguadejade.com. It's interchangeable, which is one of the things that I love. Like me, my mind switches from Spanish to English just like that. So one day I'll say Agua de Jade, one day I'll say Agua de Jade. Aguadejade.com. Also on Instagram, Agua de Jade. And yeah, that's where you'll find me.
Well, Roxana, thank you so much for joining us today. It's just such an absolute delight. My heart is so happy talking with you. The plants are so happy. They're just so happy for this incredible work that you are doing in the world in collaboration with them. Like, you are in such true, deep relationship with the plants that you work with, and it just shines through in what you do and how you talk about them. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing us all together and reminding us to be in connection with these plant spirits, because that's what they want from us.
Totally. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And thank you all for tuning in.
Thank you. Have a great rest of the day.
And thanks so much for listening and joining us today on the Plant Spirit Podcast. I hope you enjoyed it, and please follow to subscribe, leave a review, and look forward to seeing you on the next episode.